Welcome back. This is episode 11, and this is nearly the last episode in this whole track mixing, mastering, recording from start to finish. In the previous one, I showed you how I basically stemmed all the tracks, did the final mix that I was happy with a fair amount of compression and EQing on the stem just to make it sound decent, but actually make my final decisions in the mastering process. So we now have a 96 kilohertz file here. Let me just put this back to 96 kilohertz. Otherwise, there's going to be problems. Because the file is actually this is the final mixed file. The final master, unmastered master. So anyway, so you can see how the wave file is already in a pretty decent shape here. Still nice and dynamic. Taking the opportunity to cut the front and the back off. Slight fade in, slight fade out. All the kind of typical things you would do in the master. I have referenced this against a Rammstein song, the latest one, Deutschland. The reason I use Rammstein is if you look at their WAV files, if you manage to download them and check them out, they're really, really loud, but still crystal clear. So I use that as a reference to try and get my mixes to sound roughly the same. And then once I get it to sound the same, I just pull it a little bit back, the compression, so it's not so loud as theirs is, and bring back a little bit of dynamics. So what we have implemented here is one of my favorite compressors. This is a free one, the Kotelnikov from Tokyo Dawn Labs. It's a great sounding, and their presets are pretty spot on. Because it's a punky track, I use the punchy one, and then I go back into taste. So actually there's not that much compression going on here. It's more like a tight gluing compression. I added some EQ. I like to add my EQ before all the other kind of compressions and limiting, and the reason I'd like to do that is if you add it afterwards, you're basically taking away a volume again. So all the kind of EQing is done before the main final compression and limiting. So I notched out quite a few things just to make the track sound a little bit clearer, some of the muddiness out and so on. So that's why there's quite a few dips in the compression here. Then I pushed it into a tape emulator, again from Air Windows. This is the basic one. It just puts the kind of coloring that you would get from slamming it into a tape. It says slam, that's why I use that term. I'm basically pushing the tape quite hard so you get a bit of tape compression. I think it makes gives a nice warm, authentic feel to the track. Then I used this guy here, which is just to bring it up to loudness and limit it. The reason I like this one from Thomas Mund, the Loudmax 64-bit, is because it does a real good job of bringing the levels up and hitting kind of like a brick wall limit that I can set, but it adds no coloration, so it's a completely transparent. So I put it around about, depending on taste, usually somewhere between minus 0.5 and 1. And then what you can do is pull back the threshold to get it louder and louder. So where am I now? At minus 3.5 threshold. So if I just to give you an idea of how well it works, how hard you can push it without getting any distortion. I had the Blue Cat frequency analyzer on, and that's just to be able to have a clearer view of the frequencies. And then we have the loudness meter to make sure that we're in the right ballpark for streaming services and all that. You'll notice I'm a bit higher than you should be, but I find that exporting this always seems to be lower than everything else that you hear. Now, I'm not into the loudness war, I'm not trying to get my stuff all loud, but I do want to be in the ballpark. And if I put this on the right, was it minus 14, it should be roughly, it always sounds a lot quieter than everything else. So I'd rather have the compression a little bit lower, so to keep more dynamics, but then push the overall volume up a bit more, and to me it feels a little bit better. And that was literally the final master that I put out. Now, I'm not going to play the whole track because I'm hoping that folks will go to YouTube or to Spotify or to Bandcamp, find Krachwerke and check out the song Distorted Senses, and that is now live. And I hope that you would support these videos by either clicking like, subscribe, or by liking and following Krachwerke and the music we've done so far. Thank you very much.